forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is a show by the people, for the people. And you, my friends, are my people. We love the interaction, so jump in, leave your comments, participate in our growing community, won't you? In today's program, New Era has to take some Major League Baseball caps off the shelves because they were accidentally offensive. We'll talk about that. And Rick Pitino meeting OutKick's Isaac the Ref on the street, getting the hard questions right there on the street about his St. John's team. Didn't even shake the kid's hand. We'll talk about that later in the program. We've got America's Poll of the Day, a lot of Super 70s sports tweets sprinkled throughout, but let's begin with ESPN doing what ESPN does. Ryan Clark talking about Shedeur Sanders, and Shedeur has commented himself. He feels like the media is doing him wrong, portraying him in a way that might hurt his draft stock. And Ryan Clark talking about this on ESPN, commenting that there's a lot that goes with being Deion Sanders' son. That's certainly true, but Ryan Clark going to that place that ESPN loves to go with regularity. Let's listen.
But we all know that they plant these certain reports or they say these certain things, and you do hear the word arrogant. Why is he arrogant? Because he won't walk into the meeting and bend the knee, or he won't sit in the meeting and question himself or his abilities or his knowledge and experience in the game. I don't believe that that's arrogance. I want a quarterback that's self-assured. I want a quarterback that could cut the film on, and when you ask him a question about why did you make this mistake or why did you make this throw or why was this the right read, I want him to be able to regurgitate that to me like he's in the play at the moment, the same way a coach or an offense coordinator would, because that's what he's going to have to do. And I've had conversations with Shedeur Sanders, and he can do that. We all know that it's not just about him being Deion Sanders' son. It's about the bravado he carries. It's about the fact that he looks a certain way. It is about the fact that the color of his skin sometimes at that position can be questioned. And I believe Shedeur Sanders is going to have to deal with that until he gets on the field. Now,
all right, so Ryan Clark making some points there that are perfectly fine, but talking about the color of his skin, and sometimes at the quarterback position, that can be questioned. If this was 1968, and we were talking about Marlon Briscoe getting under center for the Buffalo Bills, he was the first black quarterback of the modern era to start. This is in the AFC, pre-merger. AFL, pre-merger. This would be a great conversation to have. Why did it take until 1968 for a black quarterback in the modern era to start in professional football? If this was 1974 and we were talking about James Shaq Harris of the Los Angeles Rams, who became the first week one starting black quarterback in the NFL that year, and he also became the first playoff starting black quarterback that year of 1974. He also became the first black quarterback to win a playoff game that year in 1974. James Harris is historic to the NFL as a black quarterback. This would be a great conversation to have in 1974. It's a conversation that we could have had when Warren Moon came out of Washington and ended up going to the CFL, where he won 5 Grey Cups with the Edmonton Eskimos before coming to the United States again with 5 Grey Cups on his resume and then embarking upon a Pro Football Hall of Fame career. It would have been a great conversation to have in the 1980s. Why didn't teams trust black quarterbacks back then? Why weren't there more opportunities for black quarterbacks? But it's 2025, and ESPN's demand for racism exceeds the supply in the NFL. I'm going to give you a little reminder. 2023, first 2 quarterbacks off the board, first 2 players off the board. Bryce Young to Carolina, number 1 pick, black quarterback. C.J. Stroud, number 2 pick in the draft to Houston, black quarterback. Let's go to last year. Can you remember less than 12 months ago? Caleb Williams, number 1 pick in the draft to the Bears, black quarterback. Jaden Daniels, number 2 pick in the draft to the Commanders, black quarterback. Who are the 2 most highly prized quarterbacks in the 2025 draft class? Cam Ward who I think is the consensus favorite to be the number one pick in this draft by the Tennessee Titans. Time will tell. But if I were a betting man, that would be my wager. And then Shedeur Sanders sometime very early in the first round, certainly within the top 10 is the projection. And he'll be the second quarterback off of the board. So we're going to have 3 years in a row where we've had black quarterbacks, the first 2 quarterbacks taken. 3 of them are probably going to be number 1 picks. 2 of them are going to be number 2 picks. And then we'll see where Shedeur goes. Most likely in the top 6, if not higher. Does that sound like racism to you? What's Ryan Clark talking about here? The racism towards black athletes in the NFL at the quarterback position is documented and true. Can't tell me in the 1960s there weren't more black guys out there that were capable of being outstanding quarterbacks. You can't tell me that it should have taken until 1974 before the first black starting quarterback occurred in the National Football League. It shouldn't have taken until 1988 for Doug Williams to become the first Super Bowl winning black quarterback. Black quarterbacks were pretty rare in the 70s, and we didn't see a lot of them in the 80s either, but time marches on, and the NFL has certainly cleaned it up, corrected it, and there is absolutely zero evidence in the world that we live in today that teams are looking for anything other than the best player that they can get. With the money that's at stake, do you think that there's any GM in the NFL who is going to look at a draft board and say, you know what? We're not going to draft the black guy. We're going to draft a white guy because we want a white guy. Do you really think that's happening in 2025? I can't see it. I don't see it. I see no evidence of it. But ESPN continues to bang the drum on this. I'm calling bullshit, Ryan Clark. That's not the world that we live in now. You're decades past the issue, in my opinion. I'm calling bullshit the way that Kojak used to call bullshit, in fact. Nobody was better than Theo Kojak at sniffing out fraudulent activity. Today in 1975, Kojak called bullshit on some whore's flimsy alibi. He wasn't buying it. He'd heard every excuse in the book, that guy. And let me go to the international streaming star who joins me now from Nashville, Tennessee. He's the guy that Ken Reeves used to put into blowouts at Carver High School. I speak, of course, of Ronnie T-shirts. What problems did Coach Reeves help you through? Was it STDs, gang violence, teenage pregnancy, flunking out? Did you deal with all of those things, Ron?
I was going to say a little bit of everything. A little bit of everything. Had a chlamydia scare at one point.
Well, who hasn't, Ron? You know, we've all been there. But if you do have a chlamydia scare, Ken Reeves is the guy that you want to counsel you through it.
That's the name of my band in college.
I saw you guys at Lollapalooza one year, and I was like, who is that? Somebody said chlamydia scare, and I said, God, they suck. Except for the bass player. I noticed you. You just didn't have the talent around you with that band, Ron. It wasn't your fault. What do you make of this, that Ryan Clark is bringing Shedeur Sanders' race into question? And look, I'm not denying it. I'm detailing it. I mean, the history of racism in the NFL towards not being willing to look at black guys as quarterbacks is real and shameful. But I think that act got cleaned up a long time ago. Am I naive?
So here's what I think. 2 things. I think, we talked about how Stephen A. and LeBron, the spotlight, that's their oxygen. Bringing race into things is Ryan Clark's oxygen. And it sucks too, because I think he's really smart about football, like really, really smart. Like if you ever listen to him just break down football, dude is on point a lot, like really, really good. But it's like always has to bring racism into everything. One thing specifically, Ricky, he was talking about, it's how he looks. It's not how he looks. It's that he's arrogant and he acts like a Sanders. If you think about 2 of the quarterbacks that you mentioned, You mentioned CJ Stroud, and you mentioned Jaden Daniels. Both of them look very similar when it comes to hairstyle as Shedeur Sanders. Jaden Daniels has 2 big diamond earrings, but you know what CJ Stroud and Jaden Daniels are? They're really nice, humble kids. So Ryan Clark, don't throw race into this. It's just lazy. It's so freaking lazy to bring race into it every single time when we just have so much to go off of that. It's not that way anymore.
Look,
it's
Ron,
just not that way.
I'm sure that there are some racists sitting in their double wide trailers with a
not
can
at
of Keystone
GMs, not
Light
GMs
or
and
whatever.
owners. I don't care
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. There are still racists out there. I'm sure.
Of course
that
there are. They're
there.
idiots.
I'm not stupid, right? But they're not running teams.
No.
Nobody in the draft room in a multi-billion-dollar.
Could you imagine?
You see what these
Could
teams
you
are
imagine
worth?
if somebody brought that up in the war room? Like,
maybe we should take Jackson Dart. I like his pigmentation.
Yeah.
You think that's going to happen?
Yeah.
He ain't going to
Will
be
Howard,
one of the
Cal
first 2
McCord.
quarterbacks off the board.
Come on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's just
lazy, Ricky.
Continuing on and on
Say it
about
all the time. It's
move
lazy.
on somewhere else. There are almost certainly areas of life where you could turn your attention towards trying to find the inequality and people being treated in a discriminatory way. But the NFL quarterback position ain't it anymore. Time moves on, and clearly teams have no problem investing the future of their franchise into black quarterbacks today. It seems to be just scoreboard to me.
Is there a better example of meritocracy than professional sports? There's just not. It's just about how good you are. Can you help us win? Nobody cares about anything else other than that.
And it wasn't always that way. We're going to be talking about March Madness moments. We're going to draft our favorite March Madness moments. And one of them that is going to be on the board is Texas Western. In 1966, I believe it was, they beat the University of Kentucky. They were the first college team to start 5 black guys.
Yep.
So, this Adolph Rupp didn't even have a black guy in the Kentucky program until roughly about 4 or 5 years after that. Yeah. So, in the past, this is not only a
great conversation in the 70s.
It would have been a necessary conversation. Sure. Necessary and important conversation. But to be talking about it now, I don't get it. Ron, WNBA, the Atlanta Dream. I know one of your favorite WNBA franchises. I know you don't really have a favorite.
They're my fourth favorite team.
Yeah. You're more just a fan of the league, really. All the teams, all the players. I think you have a WNBA jersey in your closet for every team, if I'm not mistaken. But the Atlanta Dream, they're going to be moving one of their home dates against the Indiana Fever to the Hawks building, to State Farm Arena. They normally play at the Gateway Center Arena. And the quote here, let's take a look at it from the Atlanta Dream. Not really addressing what's going on. See this here, the highlighted portion. However, due to a scheduling conflict at Gateway, we saw an opportunity to bring this exciting early season matchup to State Farm Arena, allowing even more fans to experience it, and we appreciate the hospitality. Like, they didn't fucking go to State Farm Arena and say, hey,
please,
we got an amazing player coming to town. Please let us in here to sell another 12 or 13,000 tickets or whatever it is. And there's nothing on the schedule at Gateway.
Ricky, I read the article.
They're not even going to have a fucking tractor pull there that night.
Oh, yeah.
They're so full of shit.
I read the article. The dream said, "Oh, wait, Caitlin Clark's coming to town." Oh, no. This is about what we've done as a franchise. And we have a really exciting team. We've got a lot of pieces together now. And it's what the fans are clamoring for it. Caitlin Clark, no, has nothing to do with Caitlin Clark.
I understand if they don't want to come out. I mean, what they ought to be doing is they ought to have a big, ginormous picture of Caitlin Clark on the screen and say, hey, everybody, Caitlin Clark's coming to Atlanta. because it's like fucking Taylor Swift arriving.
Yep.
You know, that's what it is. So you might as well play it up, but they can't do that because I assume the other players in the league will get salty about it, is all I can conclude. But if you're not going to feature Caitlin Clark and say, hey, Caitlin Clark brings the Indiana Fever to town and we're going to be playing at State Farm Arena that night, if they can't do it that way, at least don't make up some bullshit that it was a scheduling conflict. Just don't say why. Just say we're playing there that night.
Everybody
knows.
make
an excuse.
Everybody knows.
Oh, it was a scheduling conflict. I'm calling bullshit a lot today. I call bullshit on that Atlanta Dream. And you know what else I'm calling bullshit on? I'm calling bullshit that Mrs. Brady should be giving anybody advice on how to cook anything.
Alice cooked
because
everything.
Alice did all that. And we know it. Bullshit. Alice cooked everything. Carol Brady was standing around with her thumb up her ass throughout the entire decade of the 70s. And we all know it.
Trying to help her kids find a place to poop because they didn't have a toilet in their bathroom.
That's right. She was loading the kids up in the station wagon and taking them down to McDonald's where they were just lining up to take one of their 42,000 shits of their life, Ron. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, maybe it's better. I don't even need to give that context. People who haven't been watching the show will just wonder what the fuck we're talking about. Here's one for you, Ron. You know, we talked about the new era caps on the program a little bit. They're calling these overlap caps. This is a new design, and you know how it is. There's so many different designs now.
Yep.
Teams wear different uniforms. I don't think the teams were going to wear these, but this is New Era's gimmick this year. Every team has what they call an overlap cap. And the concept is you have the team name in cursive with the regular team logo placed over the team name in cursive. And this led to some interesting, shall we say, Ron, hats. And let's take a look, shall we? There are a few in particular. Here are the three in particular that seem to be the most problematic. And they had one the other year, I think it was last year. They had an Oakland Athletics one that looked like ass. It said A's, and then there was an S next to it. But take a look at this. The one that people have been joking about, Ron, is tetas, which I don't know if you're up on your Spanish slang.
It's one of the three words I know in Spanish. Yeah, boobies.
Yeah, that apparently means boobies in Spanish, and so they're just wearing a hat that says boobies.
What language is asshole? Which language is assholes?
We're the assholes.
We're the anals.
The Major League Baseball also announcing yesterday their new partnership with the Spice Channel. I don't know. They're going to have to scramble Major League Baseball games because I don't know. The assholes play the anals. Yeah, I think I did. Back years ago when we had the giant satellite dish in my teenage years,
Spice.
We used to get a channel called American Triple Ecstasy, and it was scrambled. A lot of things weren't scrambled. Playboy Channel wasn't scrambled back then. It'd come on at 7 p.m. and it would stay on to 5 a.m. I spent a lot of all-nighters as a 16-year-old boy. I'll tell you that. But American Triple Ecstasy.
A lot of Gatorade.
Brings you Houston Assholes baseball. Yeah, a lot of that. Here's one for you, Ron. You are the international streaming star from Nashville, Tennessee. As I'm sure you know, Nashville is one of the cities that is hopeful that they might one day get an MLB expansion franchise, and they revealed their team cap and logo just this week. Let's take a look at that. The Nashville Stars would be the name of the team if they are so fortunate to land an MLB opportunity. And there's the cap, Ron. The white one there with the black bills turned sideways, that's giving me 1919 Chicago Black Sox vibes. What do you think of the logo there?
Gosh, I feel like it's it definitely is a classic baseball logo, but it doesn't really embody Nashville. I mean, what Nashville's all about. I feel like it could be a little bit flashier without being gaudy, but it does say potential.
I want a guitar in there somewhere. God damn it.
Right.
I love that AAA ballpark. Does the AAA ballpark still have the giant guitar scoreboard?
I believe so. Yeah. The last time I was there once and it was there. Yeah. Nashville Sounds.
I thought that was so cool when I was a kid. Yeah. The Nashville Sounds. Their logo was a dude swinging a guitar, which I always thought was a cool logo. But that wouldn't be the worst looking cap in Major League Baseball if they get it. But you know what I'm hoping for, Ron? Always, I've been banging the drum for 10 years on X for this. Still hasn't happened, and with each passing year, I'm not going to lie, I get a little bit more discouraged, but I say bring back the Montreal Expos. Simple as that. That logo there, Ron, of course, some people see an E, an L, and a B. They call it L, but it's an M if you look at all three colors. It's a B if you only look at the blue, and it's an E if you only look at the red. There's a rhyme and a reason to it. But
well thought out, some would say.
One of the best hats, one of the best caps in Major League history. The pinwheel.
Yep.
There was nothing else quite like it. The team that when I was a kid, I thought it was the most exotic thing I'd ever heard when I heard "O Canada" at Riverfront Stadium in 1983.
I've told you, Ricky,
I had Tim Raines and Gary Carter in the lineup.
I had a Montreal batting helmet.
Dude, I would love to see you do this show just in a Montreal plastic batting helmet.
I will get on eBay after the show, see if I can find one.
I have one of those. The Dodgers are in Japan, Ron. The Japan series set to happen. The Cubs and the Dodgers are going to open the Major League Baseball regular season, believe it or not, next week. And there you are. Konnichiwa, motherfuckers. And there it is. You're going to have Japanese starting pitching matchup, Yoshi Yamamoto and Shota Imanaga of the Chicago Cubs. So there's no shortage of Japanese star power in this game for the local fans to enjoy. Pitching matchup there is
just a coincidence.
It's going to get for the Japanese
just a
fans.
Coincidence that those two are starting, kind of like the Dream are going to play in the Hawks arena. Just a coincidence.
Well, I mean, those are the guys. I mean, that's the Cubs guy. And
would that be their starting starting pitchers?
The Dodgers have three great Japanese starting pitchers.
Okay.
They've got Yamamoto. They just brought in Sasaki from Japan, just signed him. He was considered to be the best international player. And of course, Ohtani is going to be pitching again this year after not pitching last year while he was recovering from elbow issues. So you've got that. Here's one for you, Ron. The Cubs also have an outfielder named Seiya Suzuki, and he took batting practice with a Japanese samurai sword. And Ron, I didn't believe this at first. When I first saw it, I thought that it was just tricked up. Hey, haha, that's funny. CGI, I see what you did there. I have been led to believe everything that I've checked into, and I'm still amazed enough by this that there's a part of me that hates to say that this is real because somehow I'm going to feel stupid tomorrow when somebody says, "What the fuck were you thinking?" Of course this wasn't real. But I believe this is real. Tim and I have both looked into it. Take a look at this. This is Suzuki taking batting practice with a samurai sword. What if we told you it was only 1995? But wait, it can also slice through baseballs. It feels like something from an infomercial that
the Ginsu knife.
Yes. What if we told you that you could take batting practice with it?
But wait,
what would you be willing to pay then?
Even if it's not true, it's pretty awesome.
It's true. He's slicing baseballs in half.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how fucking sharp that thing is? Look at these still frames that Tim grabbed for us. How sharp does something have to be to just cut through a baseball clean as that? It's even sharper than the sword that Dewey Cox was wielding when he killed his brother. There's done chop my brother in half. That was for the 15 people watching right now that got the reference. I hope that you enjoyed it, because everybody else is, what the fuck is Ricky talking about?
I'd be one of those.
The Dewey Cox.
I'd be one of those.
The Dewey Cox story. It's a John C. Reilly comedy from probably about 2008 or somewhere in that range. I don't know if it's that old. Maybe it's.
I missed that one. Sorry.
But, he accidentally chopped his brother in half. So I don't know. Might want to give Suzuki a little bit of room when he's wielding the samurai sword. That's something that Sadaharu Oh used to do, Ron. Take a look at this. Sadaharu Oh, who hit 868 home runs during his career in Japan, used to train with a samurai sword. Maybe that's the secret. And look at that. You can see there where he's celebrating. I'm genuinely not sure what he's chopping through. Is that wood? What is that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But look at those down in the bottom right corner, Ron. That's when he hit his 756th home run, which put him one ahead of Hank Aaron, and they all celebrated like that motherfucker had even faced any American pitching at all. Take a look at this. Sadaharu Oh and Dick Allen, baby. Hall of Fame class of 2025. Dick Allen. There's my tweet. This is an old tweet of mine, too. Sadaharu Oh and Dick Allen in 71. Oh hit 868 in Japan, but I'd face him before the Wampum Walloper any day. Japan wasn't ready for Dick Allen. That photo is from 1971, Ron, when the Yomiuri Giants came to America, doing a little goodwill tour. And so there was a photo.
You have a Giant sweatshirt, don't you?
I do. I have a Tokyo Giants sweatshirt. You know, I want to go to a major league game in Japan sometime, but I don't want to see a major league game there. I want to see
a Japanese
team. Like I can name most of the teams in Japanese baseball. You know?
Give me three.
Hiroshima Carp, Hanshin Tigers, and the those other ones. So how about that?
Tokyo Giants.
There was a time. The Tokyo Giants.
Big East tournament. You're new to St. John's. How are you feeling? You excited?
I am very excited.
And is white suit the move tomorrow night?
No, white suit is put in mothballs for another year.
All right. And what's your message to your competitors in this tournament?
To who?
To your competitors.
I don't have a message. They can take care of themselves.
All right. Good luck, Rick.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Rick. There's Rick Pitino being asked questions on the street by Isaac the ref. I used to know him as Isaac the intern. He's Isaac the ref now, out there asking the hard questions on behalf of OutKick. And Rick Pitino couldn't get out of there fast enough, could he? Just left my bro hanging on the handshake. I don't know what's going on with that. You think he saw him? Did he deliberately give up on the handshake? I think Pitino saw the hand and just didn't want to go there is what I think happened. I don't know, Rick. I can't believe that Rick Pitino is still this relevant. I got to give you credit, Rick. You won the championship at Kentucky. You turned that entire thing around. You won us one at Louisville that we deserve back, NCAA. What's wrong with having some hookers? Give us our banner back. And now he's got St. John's in the mix. It's interesting times. March Madness is upon us. And who better to ask March Madness questions than my guest today? She is Kelly in Vegas. Kelly, how are you?
Doing pretty good. You just mentioned St. John's got a nice second half winner with the Johnnies, one of the best bets in college basketball. Just wait till halftime. You don't even need to watch the first half. You get the notification, halftime, get right in there. Rick Pitino, man, I got to get in there in the locker room. I want to know what he says to these kids at half. because he gets them fired up.
Yeah, he is surprising me. He's turning into this guy who's still very relevant. What is he, like in his early 70s now or something? I mean, I still remember him as that young guy that came in 89. I think it was 89 that he got hired with Kentucky, coming in from Providence. And he was a kid practically. And now here we are all these years later, and he can still do some coaching. He's 72, Tim says. So good for Rick. I would say, Kelly, tell me, what do you do this time of year? March Madness, I know that, the tournament kicks off next week, but we got a lot of conference championships and so forth going on right now. A lot of people are waiting for their brackets, and they're going to fill out some brackets and have some fun. What do the professionals, such as yourself, look for at this time of year?
So I'm looking for underdog upsets, right? So we know that there are certain teams that are already, they've already punched their ticket to the big dance, if you will. So here they go. They don't have anything to play for during conference championship time. There's some other teams that are vying for one of those coveted spots if they can win their conference championship. So I'm looking for outright underdog winners. Unfortunately, I bet a bunch of chalk today, which means I bet the favorites. But looking at the next couple of days, we're going to be looking for some outright underdogs. SEC tournament, Big 12 tournament. I'm excited. These are I think it's the best couple of months of sports. Obviously, I love college football. It's always been my bread and butter, but there is something about March that is just so exciting. So just getting ready to, see Selection Sunday. I'll be sitting there ready to make some early bets on Sunday afternoon with some of my friends. It's going to be wonderful.
So are there general things to look for when the bracket for the tournament comes out? Like somebody like myself, who is a very casual college basketball fan, are there any little things that I should be looking for in order to find my opportunity if there are a handful of games in the first round that I want to bet on? Or does it just come down to the specific matchups and what you have studied about those teams during the season?
Comes into play, Ricky, but I also think that there's some old adages that still hold true, right? Everybody knows about the 5-12 and how those 12 seeds have beat up on the 5s historically, but we've seen that regress over the last few seasons. Now it's that 14-3 matchup, those 14 seeds coming out of nowhere and beating those 3 seeds. So look, here's the reality. The teams that have the best opportunity to win a national championship have to have a few things in common. And outside of the 2014 UConn Huskies, every team since I graduated from high school, and no, I'm not going to tell you when that was, has had 2 things. If you go to kenpom.com, it's free. It's my favorite college basketball website. There's a few others that I really like to use. He uses net ratings, right? He uses adjusted efficiency, defensive efficiency. He even throws luck into there. But if you look at the teams that are in the top 25 in their ratings from adjusted offensive and defensive efficiency, only 6 teams fit that bill, right? And I've got futures bets on 3 of them. So I'm sitting kind of pretty here with the Florida Gators. The Houston Cougars is an interesting one. And of course, the Texas Tech Red Raiders. But something for the casual bettor to look for, right? If you know you're filling out a bracket or you're playing in a survivor pool and you're looking for those upsets, but also looking for teams to save till the end, I'd be looking at some of those offensive and defensive ratings from his site. Another thing that I really love to do, first half unders in the big dance, right? Even it works in conference tournament championships. It was working really well the last couple of days. When teams go to a new gym, the sight lines are off, especially some of these places they've never played before, right? Every single year, March Madness is all over the place, and you're playing in arenas that you've never set foot in. So the sight lines can tend to be off. Madison Square Garden is one of those places as well, just because it's used for so many different activities. So I like first half unders. I know people that blindly bet them. I look for ones that also match with really solid defenses, but that is something that I think anybody can start to look for in the first round, whether you're betting on a legal sports app or just betting one of your buddies. It's a fun thing to pay attention to.
Kelly, I know the news just came across Cooper Flagg rolling his ankle earlier today. I obviously have been wrapped up in doing this show for at least the last 45 minutes or so. What's the latest? Do we know anything further yet about whether this is going to affect his availability for the big tournament?
It's always tough, right? When somebody gets hurt, we all scramble to, X now to see what's going on. And I haven't heard anything. Last we saw, he was there on the court with his teammates, kind of got wheeled out there, not doing the greatest. High ankle sprain. Texted a doctor friend of mine if that's really what it is, 4 to 6 weeks. So he would miss the NCAA tournament, which is just awful to think about, one of the best players in the sport. Also, you kind of have to wonder how much pain is he in? Is he going to declare for the NBA draft? Sure, kind of one of those guys that you would think would. But we'll see kind of what Duke's got for NIL money on whether he comes back or not and whether or not he forces himself to play. But it is always unfortunate when these conference tournament games, who mean essentially nothing to Duke, and somebody like that gets hurt.
Well, let me bring in now the international streaming star once again. I don't know if you two have had the pleasure not. I can't recall. Have you?
Yeah, before the national championship game.
Ohio State.
Yep.
Okay.
She knows.
There you go.
She knows.
Hey, Ronnie, do you have any question for her about the tournament before we turn our thoughts to the fantasy draft today?
No, I mean, she covered everything. I mean, we don't even know who's in yet, so I think maybe once the brackets are set, I might have some questions for her.
Kelly, who's your number one Cinderella, if you had to say right now?
Here's the problem. And I'm going to just hand up, right? I follow a ton of sports, but there's 300 plus college basketball teams, right? And every single year there's a team I have to Google, I feel like, because I don't follow these really small conferences, right? I remember I went to Kansas State, as you can tell behind me. I remember K-State basketball was god awful. And so they weren't going to be in the tournament. So we figured out, well, we're just going to bet again or cheer for whoever KU plays. And at one point in time, I owned a Davidson t-shirt. I owned a Bucknell t-shirt. I owned all these like random teams that I decided I was like, well, I'm going to be a fan of these teams. And the interesting part is now that I'm a gambler, you would think I would find value in some of these smaller conferences, but it is really, really difficult to get good information on some of these smaller schools. I've heard all sorts of people lobbying for St. Francis, PA. I could not name their coach or a single player, so I will not be saying it's going to be those guys. I'm looking for teams in the AAC. Remember FAU a couple of years ago kind of came out of nowhere. That was a really shocking one. And we'll see if there's not a team like that maybe can go far. Last year, whether anybody wants to admit it or not, NC State was a Cinderella. I mean, there really were a Cinderella story, winning their conference and then getting into the big dance, going all the way to the Final Four. So I haven't seen enough of these smaller conferences to be able to sit here and say, oh, yeah, keep an eye on X team.